All right. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Honey Podcast. This is season 3. I'm Dani. This is Bibi. And today we will be buzzing over a very special guest. Joining us is Greta Ray. She is an Australian-based singer-songwriter, and she has created a remarkable discography of tunes. And most recently, she has released part 1 of her duology. And we are so ready to hear more from you. So thank you for joining us today and welcome to the Honey Podcast. So we're gonna get started. Of course, we always love to hear from our guests, basically in their own terms. How did you get started in the industry?
In the industry, I feel like getting started in music and in the industry are two very different things. With the industry, I'd already been writing songs for a couple of years. I was going to school with a really wonderful arts program, and I had a really wonderful vocal coach who really believed in me, and I would always go and play her my songs first, and she would give me feedback. And I think after a while, she realized that, it wasn't just like a little hobby that I had. It was something that I wanted to do something bigger with. So she happened to know a couple of people who would be suitable to produce some work for me. So she introduced me to this wonderful producer called Josh Barber. And him and I got started on some demos of mine when I was about 15. And then we made my first 2 EPs together, which are the only bodies of work of mine that are out in the world right now. That was kind of how it all began, really.
So 15 is a pretty young age to get started in music. Do you think that you would have waited, or you think that 15 was like a perfect age for you to get started?
There were definitely some things about kind of, I guess when we had some success with a certain song, I was still in high school when that was happening. And that was definitely like an interesting thing to navigate.
Yeah.
But the good thing was I had a really great team of people around me who were very protective and supportive, but also mindful of the fact that, the industry can be a scary place sometimes. And so they were protective of me. And I have very supportive parents. So that was great that I had those things. Not everyone has those things. So I think that in terms of 15 being the age that I started to record stuff, I don't really know how much longer I would have waited, because I was always playing, I was always singing. Music was kind of just always a part of my life, so it probably did feel like a very natural next step, really.
That's awesome to hear. So you write a lot of meaningful and poetic like lyrics. Can you give us a bit of insight into your music writing process?
Yeah, thank you. When I used to write songs that were kind of more by myself, because I wrote songs for years just in my room, and that was kind of, I over time became very obsessive with my work. I think that I kind of stopped practicing songwriting at a point, and I was just mindful of like, how can I craft this thing to make it amazing? And it has to be this smart, and it has to have like this internal rhyme scheme and all of these like clever little language things. And so when I used to do that, as much as I think that I would enjoy the final product, eventually it meant that I stopped kind of churning out songs consistently. So over the past couple of years, I've kind of thrown myself headfirst into co-writing, which means I work with like lots of different collaborators and top liners and writer producers. And I still, the songs are still very much mine, and I still bring most of the ideas into the session, but I have people to guide me and to suggest things and to critique things, which is really helpful. And it means that I get to learn more about songwriting, and I get a lot more songs as a result. So yeah, my process has kind of changed over the years a little bit, but in terms of like the wordiness and the language, I think that just comes from the fact that I grew up on a lot of singer-songwriter records. Like I love Joni Mitchell, I love James Taylor and Paul Simon and Missy Higgins. And yeah, so those writers were really important to me throughout my childhood. So I think it was probably just me trying to emulate what they did, I guess. I'm drawn to lyrics, I'm drawn to storytelling. And when I was in high school, I was studying literature. And so I was pretty heavily in love with words around that time, and drawing inspiration from the texts that I was analyzing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you are really wonderful at writing, so we've got to give you props there, of course. And as far as being a songwriter, would you say that you have the same process for when you're writing songs for yourself versus when you're helping like co-write songs for other people?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, top lining and writing for other people is not something that I've done heaps. I've done it a little bit, but when I started co-writing, I kind of was like, I have to write my next thing. Like I have to start writing new music and learning how to do this for my artist project first. But now that I've spent a lot of time with other collaborators and I'm, you know, my group of friends, like a lot of them are writers as well. I think that I definitely approach it differently. I think that I just kind of let go a little bit, because like the purpose of you being like a top liner in somebody else's artist session is that you serve their story, which is like a really interesting thing to do. So it's kind of your job to bring them out of their shell and to open up to you so you can get the best kind of content for the session, I suppose. And that's not as much of a concern in my sessions because I just kind of open up and share everything immediately. So yeah, and I think that I'm less attached to making sure, like I think that over time you can be like, oh, is this like a word or a phrase that I would personally use? Obviously you don't have those kind of obstacles when you're writing for somebody else because you don't know what they're going to like or what they're not going to like. So you can try out a lot of things. So I think that the palette is more diverse in that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you said you haven't done tons of it, but who would you say you've had the most fun working co-writing with?
So many people. I work.
You can tell us a couple.
Okay, I might have to do that because
that's totally fair.
I've had some really, really fun sessions. There's this really wonderful writer called Ned Philpott who I met in 2018 at a writing camp, and he has written a couple of songs with me. One that just came out called Bigger Than Me, and he just brings this really amazing energy into the writing rooms. And he's like one of the hardest working people that I know. He's always in sessions and he's always top lining for other people and works on his own stuff as well. So he's great. My friend Gab, who has an artist project called Japanese Wallpaper, we met when I was like 16 or 17 and we actually toured together for a little bit. And it's only now, like all this time later, that we finally started to actually write together. And we've always been a massive fan of each other's projects. And it's just fallen into this really perfect place. And whenever we write together, we're just like, it feels like a treat. Like we're so lucky that we get to work together. I really love working with Robbie Dessar as well. I've worked with him a lot over the years. He's done some stuff for the Veronicas. I don't know if you know who the Veronicas are. And this artist called Maya, who's really amazing. So yeah, I love Robbie. We've had some great times together. But I mean, really everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
that's kind of a tough question to ask. I mean, and that's awesome that you get to work with people you get along with like that, because it makes it feel like it's not so much work as it is a good time. What about people that you look forward to working with? Who is somebody that you just really want to work with that you haven't yet?
I don't know. I feel like there would be so many. I feel like there are definitely artists that are of kind of that seem a bit like out of reach right now that I'd love to work towards, like one day hopefully getting in. Of course. If I keep at this and I keep working really hard, like I mean, I think it's every top liner's dream, or like a lot of people that work in pop music, to cross paths with Julia Michaels. I'm a really massive fan of her work, but that's like top of the list kind of stuff. That's really hard.
I could totally see it happening though.
I love her work so much. And I was doing a lot of like research into her project recently. And some of her influences are like people that are artists here, like Lisa Mitchell and Missy Higgins and Sarah Blasco, like these incredible female Australian writers, which I find like so interesting because she's, you know, grew up in California. So that was just like a really nice thing to come across. And the fact that she loves Fiona Apple and Laura Marling, like it just blew my mind, because those writers are really special to me as well. And they're different, they're folk writers, but you know, it's just amazing how that can kind of translate into like inspiration for a pop writer, for like one of our most successful writers. So yeah, that would be cool.
I would love to see it. So we hope that it happens too, honestly.
Yeah, we're gonna be hoping to see that somewhere soon.
Guys.
So duology is a big part of your career. So
Mhm.
can you explain to our listeners what duology is and why you choose to release music this way?
Yeah. So the duologies concept, the duologies collection was something that we came up with a couple of years ago when we were just trying to figure out, like, I guess I wanted to release my new music that I'd been working hard on for a couple of years in a way that was really interesting and in a way that spotlighted the songs, because I feel like, you know, with the way that music is digested at the moment, like you kind of often have like an opportunity to spotlight like one or two songs and then like maybe you release a big body of work, who knows? Like, yeah, I think I wanted to find a way to tell the stories a little bit more, because I feel like with that very conventional, I think it's changing. I think that it is shifting in terms of how people listen to music. But like, yeah, you often just like, I'm such a storyteller and I wanted to find a way to really break that down with my audience. I also just wanted to, I think the duologies were something that came quite naturally to me. So basically they're pairs, they're kind of like an A-side, B-side thing. That I used to refer to as sister songs. In my last release, which was an EP called Here and Now, I had two songs that were very distinctly about the same situation, the same breakup. One was very like optimistic and melancholic, but like overall very accepting, and the other was just like a devastating breakup song. And I would always be like, yep, they're one and the same, they're sister songs. And then when I looked at a lot of the new music that I had written, I realized that without intention, I had like continued to do that anyway. And there, you know, you can write multiple songs about like the one situation, but there seemed to always be a really clear two. And I think that was because a lot of the time, especially when you're in your early 20s, like, and songwriting is a way to help me process how I'm feeling. Like I would feel a way about a certain situation or person and then immediately write about it. And then, you know, whether it was a couple of weeks or months later, I would change my mind and write about it again. So yeah, I guess the duologies are kind of a reflection of like, two truths can exist in the same space. And there's always like a different perspective or a different side to the story. And B, like, it's okay to change your mind, I guess. And I really, wanted to kind of validate and celebrate the fact that when you are my age and in this very kind of like formative time in your life, like you do change so much. And I really don't even, I don't feel like I'm the same person that I was like a year ago or 2 years ago at all. Yeah, things really shift pretty quickly. So thankfully I have music to allow me to document those changes. So that's the story behind the duologies.
That's awesome. I think it's super unique to have this like both sides of the story. Cause like as you said, you change, life changes, and it's awesome that you get to have like one story but like told in different ways. I think it's awesome.
Absolutely. I think it not only that aspect, but I think, like you said too, as well, with the when you put out a full length album, usually there's 2 or 3 singles, you know, and I feel like I listen to albums sometimes and I'm like, wow, this one deserved to be a single. Like, I wish this was a single too. So putting out those smaller bodies of work, I think it makes it like easier for fans to appreciate. So that's really an awesome concept.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really glad that that's how it's being, you know, that's how it's coming across.
Received, yes.
Yeah. So speaking of duologies, do you have like any favorite like book duologies that you like or something?
Ooh, that's a good question, because duologies is usually in reference to specific books. Oh goodness, I don't know, but you know what? I mean, musically could be described as a very recent duology, if there's no other release, which like who knows? But like the Folklore and the Evermore records were definitely like a really 2-in-1 thing that happened recently that I loved a lot. I feel like they were mini books, considering like how ridiculously incredible the use of Taylor's language is on those records. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm looking at my bookshelf now, and in terms of duologies, I can't see any. I mean, there are 2 books that are based on creativity, like my 2 pillars of like my favorite creative books. I read a lot of books about creativity, and 2 of them, there's a book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And they both kind of discuss, I guess, the creative outer force in a slightly different way, but they're both like very important books to me and have really shaped like my views on creativity and just the way that I wrote a lot of my new music. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think books have had a lot of impact on me, and it's awesome to see how like that has influenced your music career.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it was really interesting, like last year, being in lockdown for quite a while. Like, I mean, Australia, as I'm sure you guys know, like we're in a very, very fortunate situation with coronavirus. There was a small period of time where I live, Melbourne, we were on the brink of a second wave. And so we had to stay in lockdown, a very strict one, for like quite a while in order to shut that down. And during that time, I read a lot of books, and it is very important to read in order to like enhance your songwriting skills, I think, because you get a lot of new words, and yeah, it's good to keep that up for sure.
Like you said, the language in books are just incredible. I love to read, so I will sure check out those 2 books you mentioned. And when you reference Taylor, I mean, I'm not even a like avid Taylor Swift fan, but like even I have to say those 2 albums were just totally incredible. Like she is a master of her work. I can't even begin to explain it or go into detail, but I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, they were it felt for me like, as someone that's followed her career very closely since I was quite young, those records, and I think she even described it similarly to this at one point, but they really did feel like a return or an arrival, I guess. Like she has spoken a lot about how like every time that she's released a full body of work, like that it's felt like kind of reinventing herself and experimenting and trying on like a different outfit. And then I feel like with these albums, it was like, I've really wanted to just hear you make this record this whole time, but you wouldn't have been able to reach this point had you not done all of those other amazing records as well. Right. So it really did feel like this arrival, I think. I was like, finally.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so good. And it couldn't have been better. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a young woman in the industry, what are some struggles you've had to overcome? And what's some advice you could give to girls and women that are pursuing a career in the music industry?
That's a great question. I feel like I should begin answering that by flagging that I am very fortunate in terms of the fact that I haven't faced a lot of the struggle. I've had this really wonderful community around me at all times. I've been very privileged. You know, I'm a white woman in the industry, and that gives me, you know, that's a massive privilege as well. So I would start by saying that in terms of the fact that it is still very much a man's world, though, when I'm speaking to young female artists kind of getting to know themselves and finding their feet, something that I will encourage is just never being afraid to speak up and share your ideas. I was really fortunate to work with a producer who, although was a male, he always provided me with the space to work out how I was feeling about a production idea. And I kind of went into that space already as a 15-year-old, making room for other people, because I just kind of dismissed it like, oh, I don't really know anything about production. Like, you guys do it. Like, of course, you know. And I was really lucky that I had a producer go, no, you actually do know, like you've grown up listening to a lot of music. These are your songs. You will have a gut instinct about these things. So I just want you to trust that, and I want you to share that with me. And so that allowed me to really find my voice as, you know, I mean, I don't do the actual physical act of producing, but like I am working on the instrumentation of the songs and the arrangements of the songs, and I write them. And yeah, so it's really important that, as much as it's great to collaborate and to listen and to take on board other people's ideas, like if it's your project, like you should have the final say. And yeah, I just kind of would say to any young female artists who are stepping into this space for the first time to just always remember that, because I think you can come across people who, like, sometimes they don't even mean to take up space. You know, it's very easy in a man's world as a male musician or producer to just do that naturally, you know, because no one's ever stopped them, whereas it's quite different with females in this industry, you know. And so I think that, yeah, that would be my first piece of advice, is just to always be in the driver's seat and, yeah, never be afraid to share your ideas.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
I think Oh,
Go ahead,
go
Bibi.
Danny.
Even I know I was going to say, even on the other side of the industry, we see it ourselves that it is totally a man's world. So I always love to hear that question answered by artists we talk to, because it's just so awesome to hear that from you, and to be able to like push these girls to pursue what they deserve to pursue, and, go for it, because they're just as awesome,
Yeah, absolutely. Some of my just favorite creatives in the whole world. I actually ran I didn't run it. I was curating this like songwriting camp here in Melbourne with like lots of incredible female songwriters and female identifying producers. And that was like a really amazing experience to kind of be overseeing something like that, and to tune into the kind of conversations that they would have like at lunchtime on their breaks and stuff like that. And just so incredible
awesome experience.
All male identifying spaces, for sure.
I think you give up very awesome advice, and I think it applies to a lot of things, because like in the end it's a man's world, and it's awesome to see like women like you that are empowering to the rest of the women. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks. Doesn't have to stay a man's world. Come on.
No, it doesn't. We're taking over.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as live music, it's starting to make its return, at least a bit over here in the States. So do you have anything exciting planned, either for yourself or some shows that you want to see yourself?
Ooh, I am in the midst of trying to figure that stuff out. Obviously, it's been something that we've compartmentalized for a very long time, but I think also in regards to my recent kind of genre shift, there is quite a bit of work to do in terms of how I am going to execute that in a live show. In terms of shows that I want to see, kind of just any, to be honest. I think that I'm really excited to see my friends play music again. Like, I went and saw my gorgeous friend Carla play a show in Sydney about a month ago, I think now. And some other friends of mine, Xavier and Sarah, supported. And, we're all kind of in the same group of writers, and everyone's very supportive of each other. And just seeing the joy on their faces getting to perform on that stage was just something that was just so rewarding. I think that, the music industry's been through a tough time, and it's just really wonderful to see this like relief in these artists' faces when they get back on stage, and, they're a little bit nervous at first, and they're like, how do I do this?
It's been a long year.
And then when they do remember, and there's that connection between the artist and the audience, it's just like, oh, that's right. The actual job, it's not Instagram all the time. Like, it's live shows and singing and like meeting people that come to the shows to listen to your music, and, getting to talk about that with people that, buy the tickets. And so I think going to more local shows is probably something that I'm just going to continue to do.
I think it just stems off that supporting your friends. You got to support your friends. Local shows are the best shows. So I know I'm like you. I'm excited to get back to honestly any and all live music. I am so ready for it. As far as people you've toured with in the past, and who are some people you want to tour with, either again or like, who is your dream person to tour with?
Ooh, oh my gosh.
I'm giving the hard hitting questions.
I would have so many. I really would have so many. Someone that I have, like a band that I have toured with quite a bit, are my dear friends, Gang of Youths, who they're based in the UK at the moment, but they're Australian, and they're just like one of my favorite bands ever. And they have like a really stimulating live show that I've now seen like so many times, and it never gets old because it's so good. And they've taken me to America. Like, my first shows in America were with those guys, and so I just have very good memories associated with being on the road with them. So I would like to do that again. For sure.
I appreciate that. Got to stay familiar, and nothing like an exciting live show. Like, some people are just really, really, really amazing at that, and you gotta love it.
I think live shows is one of the things I miss the most about, being still quarantine, like Mexico right now, it's pretty bad still. So yeah, we're well, they actually said like yesterday that they're opening back, but I'm not sure if that's a good idea. But okay.
Oh my God. I've heard a lot of that from that side of the world. Like I spoke to a friend of mine who lives in New York, and she was like, they just have to wait like a couple more weeks, but everyone's already getting too excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they're like, oh yeah, vaccines are here. Let's just open up.
Go for it.
No, but I mean, you've been inside for so like
right.
It's been the longest time for you guys. It's been really horrible to watch. So, but it was interesting seeing like the Brit Awards today, and seeing just people like at the award show, like different to the Grammys in the sense that like seemed to be small. Like there didn't seem to be like heaps of social distancing. Like not many people were wearing masks. Like obviously because people are fully vaccinated, but it's just like still really quite bizarre to see. You're like,
I know. I keep seeing videos of Australia, and I'm like, why are there not? Like I know they don't have to, but it's scary.
I know. I feel like honestly, I like will watch TV shows now and be like, why are they at the doctor without the mask, or why are they out in public without the mask?
Yep, very understandable. There's a show, I don't actually watch it, but like clips from it come into my Facebook feed all the time called Hollyoaks. I think it's like a British show or something, and they awkwardly try to incorporate masks into it. And like I was watching it and I was like, yeah, see, if you have a mask on your wrist, like
it's not doing the same thing. Gotta love them for trying.
I know.
But like you said, I mean, honestly, I'm also on the East Coast, and as excited as I am to get back out there fully, I am totally concerned that people are just going to go too wild before we're ready.
Yeah.
But here's to hoping that we all have good luck in that sense.
Yeah, hopefully. So you create some very cool visuals to pair with your music. Where do you find the inspiration for your music videos?
I don't really know. I think like a range of things, really. Yeah, I feel like I mean, I've grown up watching a lot of music videos for sure and stuff, but I think that, it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day because she was running me through a music video concept for her artist project, and I was like, where has this come from? Like, what is this story? She was like, I don't really know. And I think there is a bit of this unknown element. Like, I think same with the songs. It's like, I don't really know where they come from. They just kind of arrive. And so I think when it comes to creating a visual to pair alongside the song, it's just finding ways to like amplify my favorite parts of that song or its production or its storyline or whatever within the visual. So with the Bigger Than Me music video that we put out on the same day as Geology 1, that video was all about kind of finding ways to just celebrate like creative collaboration basically, and I really wanted the video to be an ode to the fact that I've grown up in lots of creative based groups, like kind of extracurricular activities that I would do after school or in school, like vocal groups and dance groups and community choirs, and like making music and art together was like always a really big part of my childhood, and it's made me the creative that I am today. And so in terms of the choreography and the dancing in that video and everyone like mirroring each other's movements, that was all very much about like, you've taught me things and I've taught you things, and we learn from each other and we're inspired by each other. And so that was kind of the concept behind that video. And I just wanted it to be really colorful and fun, because at the end of the day, like, although being, an artist is my job now, there's so many things about being a creative that are just so fun and exciting. And I really want people to watch that video and then feel inspired to go make things, So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. I feel like visuals are very important. Visuals make me love the song more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. When they're good, they stay with you, really, really good music video sticks. And so, there's definitely an art to it.
Yeah, lighting that creative fire in people, that is just one of the many magical things about music and music videos. So I totally respect that.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Did you find, did you have any trouble with, recording those music videos as far as like COVID procedures and things like that? Or has it been a little bit more relaxed?
It was funny with the Bigger Than Me video, we would have been totally fine. And thankfully we were. But the day after we wrapped, we do this thing with when we get COVID cases in Australia. What a crazy sentence for me to say. But when there is an identified case, basically the system is that their close contacts all get tested and isolate, and then the close contacts of the close contacts also get tested and have to isolate, even if they come with like a negative result. They just in case, they're not allowed to be going out and potentially spreading something. So, and then when it gets outside of that little circle of close contacts and somebody else in the community gets it, then there's this worry that it's going to spread even further. And so we go into what we refer to as snap lockdowns. So Melbourne actually went into a snap lockdown the day after we wrapped the Bigger Than Me music video. So I was very, very, very lucky.
Oh my gosh.
Because then we all had to go inside. And then, you wait to see if there's any more cases popping up. And if there isn't, then it's okay. But we still have, mask restrictions. So in between takes, poor kids in the video, it was so hot. It was really, really hot in that warehouse. And in between takes, they'd have to put their masks back on, and it was a little bit different with me because I was all made up and with them all the time. But yeah, there were definitely still restrictions. Like it is, even though the cases, they're really not that many at all here in Australia, I think, because of how we just approach handling the virus, like it is still, everyone's still very cautious, and people in, where I'm from in Melbourne, particularly, like as soon as there's a case, everyone's like, oh goodness, which is, we're very privileged to be able to have that kind of reaction and approach to it. So that was kind of how it, but the Bigger Than Me music video, I wrote that brief and I think I rewrote it about like 5 times, like in 2020. Because we wanted to do it then. I was initially supposed to shoot it in London, where I was living before the virus took over. And then I came home, I wrote the brief again, and then I cut it down in terms of the cast numbers, and then I cut it down again. And then eventually I just had to give up for a while. But when we eventually got to do it, it was really great that we had like a full cast involved. So I'm glad that we did it.
We're grateful that you got back to it. But at least it was, I feel like it can always be worse. So we'll take that.
That is.
So you mentioned you were living out in London. How was that, different for your music career versus being back at home in Australia?
Well, I feel like I only really just got there beforehand.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have spent a lot of time in the UK, like up until the pandemic. I spent like quite a bit of time going back and forth because my management are based in the UK. So I've done shows there, I've done little tours there, and I've traveled there with my girlfriends. And I think in terms of the experience and it being different to Australia, it's just that it's like a different market, like it's still a really new market. I'm really lucky to have played the shows that I have there, but it's definitely an audience that I want to continue sharing my music with and expanding, how many people are tuning in. So I looked forward to being able to resume doing that when the time is right. I also I really love that part of the world. There is something, I have family over in the UK as well, so it's kind of just like a very familiar feeling to be over there. And I loved spending the time in London that I got to when I was momentarily living there. And I've written like a lot of my favorite songs there, like a lot of songs that, kind of even reference London in the lyric, just because of, how much it's just been this really lovely base to kind of retreat to just solely be my creative self. I get there and it's just all systems go. I go into every session that I can. I do all the work that I can. And it's very inspiring times when I am over there. So hopefully I can go back at some point.
London, look out.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you were very lucky to get to record before you had to go back on lockdown. I feel like that's awesome that you were able to record it, because I know a bunch of artists who had to cancel, like they had like these big music videos planned and they had to cancel because of COVID. So I think that's awesome that you were able to.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really lucky that we did get to do that in the end. But yeah, there were a lot of it was hard, like watching friends tours get cancelled and kind of how they would handle that, and people really looking forward to finally getting to be able to do this or like share their music with people, and then having it be taken away from them. So yeah, I'm really so grateful that it's returning.
Yeah, I guess COVID has taken a lot of things away from a lot of people. But like I think it's super important to get for me, music has been super important during like this whole thing, because it has kept me, like happy and discovering new music, and like joining the Honey Pub has been super special to me. So
yeah. Awesome. Was that something that you did like during all of this?
The joining the Honey Pub, I joined I think in August last year. Cool. And it was awesome. And now I'm doing this podcast, which is absolutely incredible. Got to meet a bunch of people, which is incredible. Yeah.
It's honestly, I can say from the other side, it's been a crazy journey because I started a few months earlier in February, and I can say like the opportunities we've been honestly given has been incredible, because artists have unfortunately had so much free time because they're not touring and they're not recording. And so we've been super, super lucky to be able to get to talk to so many amazing artists. Like they've been giving us their time because you guys unfortunately don't have any touring going on and things like that. So while it has been a tough time for the music industry, it's been really honestly a blessing for us. So super grateful for that.
And it's good to have an outlet as well. To like have interesting creative conversations and like be connecting with people, like and having it's so important to have those things during this strange period of time.
And it's like we would, how would we ever, connect before this? Like, I mean, Zoom's an amazing thing. The internet's awesome. Like I'm all the way in Delaware, you're in Australia, and you are in Mexico. Like, it's just awesome to be able to sit here and talk to people from just completely different sides of the world. So totally. So grateful for that.
I think like overall it has brought to me many good things like this. So even though it's not exactly good,
but to take the good things where they're coming.
Exactly.
So we always like to ask this, but is there anything else that you can share with us that we can look forward coming from you in the future?
Like it's always we can't tell you yet. So
it's always like,
I'm so close. I'm really, really close to being able to share some exciting news. I have some really, really exciting things coming up. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this year. What you definitely can, expect is more duologies. That is something that they will be coming. Just getting to continue to share my new music in that way and really unpack the stories behind the songs. And me changing my mind every 5 seconds about how I feel. So just finding ways to kind of show that to everyone. And there are some songs that I've just been sitting with for so long that I'm so excited that they're nearly ready to be released, because there's just some stuff that it's been a long time coming. So that's kind of what the rest of the year will look like for me, for sure.
Awesome. Well, we're always excited to hear new things from you. So we'll take that. We'll take that. Is there anything else you would want to share with our listeners today?
Just thanks for having me.
Of course.
If you are interested in my stuff, you should check it out and go to my Spotify and have a great time. And I hope that you like it.
Of course. Well, again, we just want to say a huge thank you for coming out. That's going to be it for today. And we're just so grateful that you were able to join us. So thanks again. I'm Dani. This is Bibi, and this has been the Honey Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next time with the sweetest content. Thanks again.